This episode is brought to you by Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, you should definitely check them out. It's a super easy tool that anyone can use to create and distribute their podcast. It has everything you need, and you can do it all from your computer or even your phone. Need your podcast cover art? There's a tool. Music and sound effects? They have you covered. Want to record on the fly? It's easy with the app. Now you may be saying to yourself, I already have a podcast. No worries, just create your account, upload, and publish to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Looking for some walking around money? Anchor connects you with advertisers who match your brand. It's a one-stop shop for all of your podcasting needs. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And on today's show, we have Mike Fallot. And I want to be very clear. It's not Michael. It can be Mikey, but only for me. Girls can call him Mikey, men cannot. We established that in Montana. Mike Fallot, he is the force behind DreamStarters Publishing. He also has a community called the Inner Circle. He is, first and foremost, he is a patriot, unlike pretty much anything else I've ever seen. He is, as of mid-June, he has launched 233 best-selling books. He's from Pittsburgh, and I ran out of things to say.
Are you done gushing?
I'm not even gushing.
You are a little bit.
No, not really, but okay. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
So, it's going to be an interesting conversation to have with him because we wrote a book. We did not use his services. I don't think we knew he existed at the time.
We did not. We'll use him for our next book.
There is going to be no other book. Not with my name on it anyways.
Corey Harris, I feel like I can talk you into that.
Absolutely not. But it'll be fun to talk to him and see what his approach to writing books is and all of that and compare it against our own experiences because as everybody can tell from this conversation that we have mixed feelings about being authors.
No, I don't think we have mixed feelings about it. I didn't just love the whole process of writing the book. I do love the fact that we have a book out there that can really help small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Sure.
I love that aspect of it. So, but that writing was treacherous is a good way to describe it.
At no point in writing did I feel in danger.
I felt my mental health was in danger a couple of times, but it was, I thought our process was very solid and thorough, right? Like we put out a really, really good book. What I wish we would have behind it would have been the marketing machine to make more people aware of our book.
And the nice thing is there's still time to do that.
Sure.
The book isn't going anywhere. I hope that it's timely. I hope it doesn't go out of style. I hope, we don't find out that something we wrote in there is now offensive to everybody or whatever. Well, there's no getting around that probably.
Probably not. There probably isn't. So what did you like about the process that we took for writing our book?
Finishing it. That was my favorite part of the process.
I love the ending of that story. Tell it again.
I don't know if I don't know if there's anything that I really stuck out as something that I enjoyed.
No, that's not. I didn't ask you that. What did you like about our process?
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. So maybe I asked a bad question.
Well, I mean,
what parts of our process was effective to you?
There you go. That's a better question.
Yes.
There's going to be a difference between effective and efficient.
Okay.
Because the back and forth that we did and the 18 read-throughs and multiple editors and all of that, not efficient to getting a book out.
Super effective.
I think it was effective in terms of getting multiple opinions, and I mean, we caught numerous things, and we even caught one thing after the fact that like we had published the book, and I was just flipping through the pages, and I think it was in the
chapter 4,
the header of one of the chapters was wrong or incorrect somehow, and so we had to go back and fix that. So all of the work that we did, and I mean, and that's 2 editors, Julie and I reading it multiple times. We had a professional designer pull together the actual like insides of the book, because that was just something that would have taken me countless hours to do instead of just paying somebody to do it. All of that, everybody looked at it and nobody caught that one little thing again. And then there was another thing, I think, in like I don't know, there were two things that just everybody completely missed. So even with all of that like effective work that we did, you're gonna make a mistake, but that's okay. Like, you know, by the end of it, I think that if we had made that mistake, if we had noticed that mistake and like we had only spent 2 months working on it, we probably would have kicked ourselves, because we were like, we should have spent more time, you know, working on this. Well, 2 weeks, let's say, because it only took us about 2 months to write the book.
Yeah, it didn't take us. It didn't take us
so
long.
Yeah, so if we rushed through it, we probably would have kicked ourselves. But the fact that we were so thorough, and then it's like we were laughing at it. We're like, of course, how did that get through? And I sent like a joke to one of our editors, and she was super apologetic. I was like, no, like I thought that was funny. Like,
well, listen, I think probably for me, one of the things I thought our process was effective in that it made a better book, right? Not efficient. There was nothing efficient about what we did, though I thought our writing process was very efficient for us, right? The editing and review process, not terribly efficient, but very effective. But the way that we approached writing it, I felt like was really efficient in that, you know, it was this methodical approach to, I write first, you come in back, clean up on all my shitty grammar, and then you add in more context and more stories. And then we would get together fairly regularly and make sure that, you know, from a layout and storytelling perspective, that the order still made sense, and we had to reorganize. I remember the part 2 on planning as being, it was brutal, right? Because what I learned very quickly in that section was, okay, so I'm a kick-ass project manager. Like, you are brilliant at process. I am brilliant when it comes to managing projects. I am not brilliant at writing about how to do project management and how to break that down when there's no guidelines around tools or anything else. It was really tough for me to do that part, but I felt like we did a good job.
I remember we had multiple heated discussions about that, because I'm the project manager. I'm like, I understand, but I don't understand what you're doing. I can't follow like your train of thought.
And in the end, that ended up being a benefit that, you know, that was hugely beneficial for us, that you were like, I don't know project management and I have no idea where you're taking us. And I'm like, back to the drawing board. But it made the book better. I really, though, I loved our main editor. I just, you know, Vanessa, still just to this day, just crack up thinking about how I've never worked with anybody who so efficiently, and there was like a master class from her on giving feedback that, you know, it would have been really easy for us to get, you know, frustrated over like the rework and the feedback coming in, but she made it fun, and there was nothing about it that ever came across as that where we should feel bad about what we had produced. She was great. And, you know, the reason that I kind of really admire what she did is because they have a friend who wrote a book, and she wrote the whole book, sent it off to the editor, and got the feedback back from the editor for the rewrites. And that feedback and those rewrites sat for over a year, and she still hadn't looked at them because she was so afraid of what the editor would have said about them. And I thought, man, I looked forward to Vanessa's feedback because it was so funny, and she would throw in office quotes for us, and Family Guy. Yeah.
Arrested Development, yes. But some of it was jarring, I'll admit. But that's for you, Vanessa.
Yes, jarring.
Yeah, and I think her approach was better, because I can imagine how I don't know, defeating that would be if you wrote an entire book and then just got like a ton of crappy feedback.
Yeah.
Versus we would send chapters as we were finishing them, and so we knew we were kind of on the right track as we were going, instead of having to pour all of this work into something and then find out it was crap at the end. Not saying your friend's book was crap, but that's what she was concerned about. So yeah, I mean, it was I liked that approach, but yeah, there will never be another book with my name on it.
I'm determined to change your name. Change your mind there. Change your name.
You can change my name as long as it's not on the book.
All right. Well, let's wrap up and bring Mike in. Looking forward to talking to him.
Hey, everyone. If you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention, both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've got Mike Fallot with us. Welcome, Mike. It's nice to have you.
It's awesome to be here, Julie and Corey. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm so glad we got to meet for the very first time in person in Montana at the 365 Driven event. So it's been great to actually connect with you one-on-one. And, now I actually, know your sphere of influence in your circle. I like you a lot more now. This is great.
I know I'm not all that likable until you actually meet me, right? All right. Well, let's start with an interesting question. What is your entrepreneurial superpower?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I would think that my entrepreneurial superpower is stick-to-itiveness. I don't think I'm the smartest. I am definitely not the best looking. I'm not the tallest or have the most resources. But I do have this like hard-headed blue-collar mentality, which gives me this ability to just keep fighting all the way through the nonsense. I think I have more, people call it grit, and that there's a lot of people throwing that title around now, and it's powerful. Like that word grit, I guess, is really the stick-to-itiveness, but to go through the times that are not easy to manage, that are not promising, there's not a lot of hope there, and just to keep plugging, to keep digging, if you will. And I think that gives me an advantage over most people, because a lot of people come to this roadblock and say, well, I don't have this connection. I'm just going to wait till it comes to me. And I'm just like, well, maybe I can't get a guest on the podcast, or maybe I can't figure out this right connection. And I'm just thinking, I'll just do it on my own. I'll figure out something. I'll have some type of tool that other people don't have, and I'm going to use it better than most people. And I'm going to cut through the noise and figure out a way. And then I'm kind of, duct tape it or zip tie it together, however you want. And somehow it's going to lead me to the right person. So stick-to-itiveness, grit, and the ability to just fight through bullshit. I think that's my superpower.
Love it.
Where, though, does the stick-to-itiveness end?
Stick-to-itiveness?
Yeah. Where does that end and stubbornness begin? Because I feel like that can also
very good question.
be a detriment as well.
Well, I think personally, they're pretty much one and the same. I don't think entrepreneurs are very, I guess you could say, they're illogical almost. They're not logical to a point, because to leave a comfortable job and to go off and do this thing in the wilderness by yourself is sort of like, that doesn't make any sense. And you're going to put yourself through a time period that's so difficult and mentally draining that it just doesn't even make sense if you try to explain it to anybody. Oh, I'm going to follow after my dream. That doesn't make any sense to people, but the results do. So it's sort of like you have to see something that nobody else sees. Stubbornness is a part of it. So they're pretty much one and the same.
That's interesting. I'm curious about Corey's thoughts on that, because he's the most stubborn man I know.
I like you, man. I like you already.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's I believe kind of the same way. Like, as long as you keep pushing towards that thing that you want, you can ultimately get it. But one of the things that I'm guilty of, and I think a lot of people are, is there's a cost associated with that. So at some point, yeah, you might get what you want, but what did you lose along the way, or what didn't you gain elsewhere because you were so laser focused on this one particular thing? So that's just, and like I said, I'm guilty of it too. But I also I like being able to say that I'm gonna do something and actually do it. I like the fact that I can
for the most part, keep my word on pretty much everything that I do.
Love it. I think I asked, and if you guys have talked to Lauren, have you talked to Lauren at all from 365 Driven, who was the coach of the New York Yankees? I sat there in the crowd and I asked Lauren a similar question there, Corey. And I'm in this zone of, you know what, if you're not, a part of my team or on my side or whatever, you're so far gone from my life. It's automatic now. And I asked her, I'm like, is it, I'm only 36. Okay. So I want to ask people who have been doing this stuff for years and years and years. And I'm getting the same answer, but I wanted to ask her. And it's basically the people in your life that you grew up with, or maybe family, or whatever. If those people, are not really in the same boat as you, whether it's mentally or, financially, when you're thinking of things, there is going to be a cost, because you're basically going to eliminate them. And if it's automatic where you're eliminating from your life, you're almost going to be only in a circle of like-minded people. Now, I think that's the results of it all, but is there a cost of completely distancing yourself from all those other people? There has to be. Is it part of the game? Is there some type of pain of losing those individuals? There has to be, right? That's what makes sacrifice lead to greatness. I think you have to sacrifice, otherwise other people would be making it easily.
Yeah, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. My network, my social circle is, I would say, like almost 100% different now than it was before we launched SB Pace in March of 2020, right? And I have always so much appreciated Tony Watley's story and he tells this story when he was on our podcast, that him and Lisa went away. They did this weekend retreat, or this week-long retreat. Things weren't going well in the business. And obviously he tells the story much better than I do because it's his story. But essentially they both took a piece of paper, went into separate rooms, and listed out the names of the people that were bringing them back down or holding them back or weren't supporting them in the way that they needed to be supported. And they made an agreement that every name that was on the list, they were eliminating from their lives. And he said it was really hard. And he said, when he tells the story, he says, obviously Lisa's list had more names on it because she's a woman. But they methodically removed these people from their lives. And he said, we weren't jerks about it. We just started to not accept invitations, and we were like, hey, we're cutting out of our lives. We just started to cut people out without really telling most people it was happening. And some of them had been lifelong friends. Some of them were family, but they were like, these are the people that were holding them back from where they wanted to go. And he said, when they made that shift, the business expanded and grew so quickly because they started to surround themselves with the right people. And that's been that was, I always say, I've probably said this on 90% of our podcasts, the number one lesson that I learned that first year of business for us was support never comes from where you think it's coming, right? And so the people that I thought that were my lifelong friends, they're not risk takers. They're not entrepreneurs. They're not in it like we are. And I have known those people for, 25 years, and I'm not really friends with them anymore. I don't talk to them anymore. And I didn't maliciously cut them out, but I'm like, I can't give to this relationship and then get nothing back that's actually going to help me. And for years, that's the way I handled a lot of relationships, was just give. And I just started to eliminate people, and it's freeing. But yeah, there's definitely a cost. I feel guilty in some ways, but I also feel like, there's a little bit of FOMO. I'm missing out on things that I used to be included in, but I'm also thinking, I've got this whole new life over here that I wouldn't trade this for anything.
Right. Great point. And I'm going to ask you a question, Julie. When you started to become this person that you are today, and then if you were to go back into that circle for a moment, maybe a weekend hanging out, and would you almost start to get a little bit sick inside if you started to hear the negativity and maybe to hear how people think or what they're believing in? Because it's almost like it's almost jumping out of the pool and then getting back into it. And it's like a shock again. And so when I started to do this in 2016, that was my big transformation year. I started noticing the girl I was dating, her best friend was completely negative always. And anytime we'd get around her, it would be this spidey sense of oh God, I feel sick. I gotta do something here. So is that how you feel too? Maybe if you were to go back into that old life for a brief moment?
Yeah, I feel that, and I think part of what makes it a little bit easier for me, and I'll stick my toe in the water on a topic that we almost never talk about on this podcast, is that from a political standpoint, they are all on the other side of where I stand, and I just don't. I have very little patience for that mindset.
That's why I like you.
So I just kind of am like, well, I don't even see their shit on social media anymore. Like, that's how far removed they are. And it's not because I deleted them. I'm still friends with them on social media, but because they're just not engaged in any type of the circles I'm in, their stuff never even makes my feed. So I have no idea what's going on in any of their life. I'm not on their group texts anymore. Thank God, I hate group texts.
Me too.
But yeah, I don't think that I could go spend a weekend with them for anything. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, good point there.
Well, let's dive into your business and writing a book, because we wrote a book last summer, and we spent the first part of this podcast talking about kind of our experience with that. And we know that you're successful and efficient and whatever else at getting people, helping people write their own books. So what's that process look like? Because ours was interesting, to say the least. How we started and where we ended was it was great, and I'm not talking trash at all about Jim House and his process for doing things, but it took me a minute to get on board with, why are we stretching before we're talking? Like,
we made us do stretching and meditation exercises before he helped us. So we hired a guy, he's Jim House. He has a company called The Book Curver, and he helped us map out the entire book. And then our work with him ended, and then we wrote the entire book and had to find our own editors and formatters and all those things, right? So it was a learning process for us, a lot of research, and quite honestly, like, Corey led the charge on it, but he did make us do stretching, and Corey was like, what the hell?
I guess I could see the reason behind it, but I don't make anybody stretch. Let me just tell you that right. And I don't know what your interview process is like, but I've streamlined it so it's 4 hours, okay? 2 hours one day and 2 hours another day. Now, the reason why I believe in the power of a book is I saw it firsthand. 2015, I wrote my first book called Dream Starter, and it automatically, day one, became a bestseller because I knew I did so much research. I talked to people who've done it, and turned into an Amazon bestseller. That was an automatic new identity for me. I had something that most people did not, which gave me this new chainsaw in the wilderness when most people had a hatchet. So I saw what happened. I would ask to be at CCAC and Pitt and Duquesne to become a speaker, and they laughed at me. They responded 3 weeks later, nah, all this stuff, we'll get back to you. I wrote a book, bestseller, okay? Almost within a week or whatever, CCAC said, hey, it looks like you have a best-selling book. You want to come and speak to our class? It is automatically like this social hack that just gets you into rooms. So I saw the power of it. I got more attention online. But the greatest thing that happened from it was people were out there saying, man, I would love to write my book. How did you do so? Now, I did it for free, by the way. I wrote my own book, okay? I had the girl who I was dating at the time edit the book. It wasn't 100% perfect. My cover design cost $25. I went somewhere, took a picture, put it on the template for KDP, which is the way you upload it for Amazon, and I just did everything myself. It was a mess. I mean, it's still clean inside, but I did it and it worked, okay? So I saw the power. And I realized, okay, everybody's asking me how to write a book. Let me just do it for them. I'll charge $2,000 or $2,500 to interview them it was 3 hours at the time. And I saw how easy it was to just do the Socratic method, Q&A. If you ask someone a question, just like you do on a podcast, it's a lot easier to get, people to give you an answer once the question is presented to them. So you ask the right question, and then the answer is given. That answer is usually top of mind, and that's recorded via a Zoom call. And then what you do from there is you basically streamline it to the writer, takes that, comprehends it, and then brings it to life professionally. Now, the system that I have in place is story lesson, story lesson, story lesson. You want to give value to your audience with this lesson, but you need to tell people about your story. Okay. And why is that important? Because if they read chapter 1, 2, and 3, they're going to put the book down, and they're going to either they're going to know, like, and trust you, or they're not. Okay. The goal is to get them to know, like, and trust you, to fall in love with you as the person, not just the author, not just your business. So my Streamline Pros program, to make it very easy, was, hey, give me 15 generic lessons that you want people to take with you after they take with them after they read this book. And they'll say, wow, 15 generic lessons. I don't have that many. Oh, yes, you do. You just don't even realize it. Now, how do you come up with the 15 generic lessons? You start with the end goal. When the book is done, how do you see yourself using it? Well, I just want to help people. I don't want to make any money from this. That's a crap answer. If you're saying that, you're insane. You need to start thinking about this book is going to be how you level up. Well, I want to be a real estate investor. Okay. Well, I want to be the real estate agent in my community. Okay, great. I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be on stage with Tony Robbins talking about how to change your life. Beautiful. Oh, you also want to become a coach for people in relationships? Great. Now, write down 15 generic lessons that you've learned in your life that helped you identify what's important when it comes to the key points. Okay. So all you got to do is think about the end goal, reverse engineer where you're at now. Okay. 15 generic lessons that will help people get to that, to become that person, and then tie in personal stories that taught you those lessons. It could be that story with your grandfather when you were 7 years old on the tractor and he taught you about accountability. It could be your first client. It could be your first business that failed. It could be when you were a door-to-door knocker trying to sell something and you learned something about building rapport within 5 seconds. Whatever it is, write that story down in a sentence or just maybe one word. In the interview process that I do, I would say lesson number 1 is all about getting around the right people, Jolie. What does this mean to you? Tell me a little bit about the importance of that. Oh, also, how did you learn this lesson? So over time, we've done 230 books this way. And over time, I've gotten better and better at asking questions. So if I'm able to get the lesson and the story, and this is the last piece that you guys got to tie in here, is specific audience that you're trying to reach. Who am I trying to get to read this book? Is it women 25 to 45, or is it men 20 to 25? Are they athletes? Are they entrepreneurs? Are they people who went through a divorce? Are they single moms, single fathers? Whatever it is, be specific, because then you can tailor your message directly to them. So after that 4-hour interview, it goes to a writer. My writer writes it. I have a team of writers that do so. 16 women, 1 guy, just to let you guys know, women are better writers. So if you find a ghost writer out there, find a woman, because they're better writers. They listen more intently. Sharon Lecter's a perfect example of this. She's the one that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, even though it was Kiyosaki's stories and lessons, people think. So anyway, the book that changed my life was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I modeled my whole business based off of that. Anywho, once the book is written, we give you 2 edit run-throughs. You fine-tune it. Now, you just brought up a very good point. There's probably a lot of back and forth, and it's like, oh my God, the tonality of this is not me, whatever. We try to make it as easy as possible. Done is better than 5 or 7 years of trying to make it perfect. So our goal is to get it down, lesson story, tailored to a specific audience. You go through, you do 2 edit run-throughs, and we try to tweak it and basically, quote unquote, right the ship. Therefore, you are able to have your message in there, your lessons, your stories in a 120-page book, at least 20 to 25,000 words minimum, which comes out to be an hour and a half read, which comes out to be like an airplane book. Statistically, most people will read a book about 120 pages or less than any other type of book. However, it's teaching a lesson, telling a story. And then once the book is done, we give you 25 cover options you're able to choose from. The title and subtitle I help you out with, because I'm more of a marketer than a writer myself. And once that's done, we turn it into an Amazon bestseller. Bestseller means that it's all about leverage, positioning, and timing. So at the very end of everything, you have an Amazon best-selling book in a very short amount of time. People think that's the end. That's really the beginning. And I put out a little quote the other day. It's like, finishing a book is only the beginning. And the reason why is because I saw back in 2015, the transformation, the identity that it turned me into. It was overnight, just amazing to feel. So when people get that book and all of a sudden they use the book as a lead generator to get in that classroom, to speak on stage, to get on that podcast, now they find their real voice, their real self is starts to be exposed to the world. And that's how I put it all together.
Your approach is to helping people write books is very similar, I think, to ours, and when we help people start businesses, because it's a lot of questions, a lot of figuring out, it's finding that ideal customer, your ideal reader, et cetera, et cetera. Do you get a lot of people who come to you who just say, I want to write a book, and they have no idea what they want to write about? Because we get that a lot with people saying, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner. Great. What do you do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Uncertainty is a part of it. When you meet with people who are super successful business owners, they're clear. They you get them on a podcast, they can answer questions. But not everybody's at that stage, and you have to be accepting of that, because the people who are just getting started, when they quit their job and start a business, they're doing a lot of soul searching. Hell, I didn't know who I was. I mean, my first company is called DreamStarters University. Okay, the first one succeeded. I had 4 other failures before that, by the way. So the first one is DreamStarters University. Book marketers, book marketing experts. My message shifted. Okay, so the people who come to you and they're just trying to figure out, like, who are they? What do they stand for? What problem do they want to solve? I think you just have to understand that not everybody's at the exact same point in their life. And so I guess they're going to thank you down the road. 5 years from now, they're probably going to be more difficult to work with. And I guess you noticed that also. You're like, wait a second, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to give you the answers of like where to go in life. But it's part of the thing. It's part of the process. It's part of helping people get to where they want to go. You're not going to nail it every way, every time. But if you're able to help them get to that next level, maybe do a little soul searching or have a little bit of success, they're going to look back on you as you were the fire starter to it. So yes, it's a little harder. It's a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of probably frustration when it comes to people who are lost. But that's where your value is. That's part of the game. We write books for people all the time. I would say 70% use the book very well, because they have a system, they have a real business. 30% write the book, and by the time the book is already done, they're a new person. Oh my God, yeah, you know what? I wrote this book about motivation, but I really want to be the real estate guy. Okay. What you just did was you leveled up to a point where you figured out, like, where your value's at. But maybe that, oh my God, if I was this person, I could do a little bit more with my book. This is another chess move. So you're helping them get to another path, but it's not the end all be all. Like, you're just helping them get to the next level of their career. And I guess you just got to accept that, whether it's businesses or books or podcasts.
Yeah.
Helping people find their voice is just, that's where your value's at.
Yeah. I would say that, for my, I wrote a book, you write a book on motivation and you realize you want to be a real estate person or whatever. We, after we titled our book and it was released, right? So we wrote this entire book on disaster preparedness, and when we were done, it's released and published. It's probably like, I don't know, 2 months after it's out. I said to Corey, I think our book is not named correctly, and he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, it's only now that I realize, and I'm sure he knew all along, right? Our book is about building a really strong business foundation, which is the core thing that we teach entrepreneurs, is how to have a strong foundation so that you can grow and scale your business and you can withstand tough times. And I always, I find myself wondering, how many people are we missing that aren't going to pick that book up because they're thinking, well, I already survived a disaster. I made it through COVID, or I made it through, a hurricane or whatever. Whereas the book really, it gives you the fundamentals of just building a very, very strong business. And I was like, well, lesson learned, and so it's just one of the things that we talk about, but the book isn't named that, right? But I mean, the title is still correct for what it is, but I feel like we missed like an entire segment of an audience that we could have captured had we named it differently.
Good point there. A lot of people start with the title and try to build the content around the title, okay? And that's the wrong approach. You want to build the content, and that's why when we do our interview, people are like, I got this amazing title. I'm like, I don't even want to hear it. Like, you can tell me if you want, but give me an idea of what you're thinking, but I guarantee it's going to change, because here's what I've learned is that if you build the title around the content, now all of a sudden you have this ability to be like, it fits the whole thing. If you're trying to do a title and then write content based off of it, you become very limited and it becomes real choppy. So just get your message, your lessons, all that down there. And there might be something you say over and over and over that you don't even realize it, but somebody who's interviewing you does. And you're like, listen, this is what you say over and over. This is your hashtag that you're using over and over. Hey, maybe the book should be built around this hashtag here. Okay. So you're saying like, hey, the title should be this because it fits everything that you just talked about. And guess what? Maybe you never thought of this because you're thinking, oh my God, this title needs to be something magnificent. Simplicity is what sells more than anything when it comes to a book. 3 words, even 2 to 3 colors on the cover. All you got to do is cut through all that and make it very easy for them to say Jolie Traxler equals small business pace, or Jolie Traxler equals the foundation of business, or Jolie Traxler equals success. You write a book called, which I'm just making this up, Success or the Foundation of Business. Oh, Jolie, is that the girl who wrote the Foundation of Business? I would assume that she is the person that will talk about the foundation of business, right? Yeah. Whether they read it or not, this is going to open doors for you because most people will not read this book. Whether you want that to happen or not, they will not read it. But if they hear that you wrote a best-selling book on real estate riches, the keys to victory, changing your life, Corey Harris equals changing your life. Dude, Corey Harris, I heard about this guy. He wrote a book about changing your life, right? Get him on our podcast. I want to hear his lessons that he talks about. And damn, he has some good stories. You hear about his story whenever he did this and this and met Jolie. Oh my God, it's an awesome. I can associate with that guy. Now I'm going to follow him online. He's a patriot like Jolie. Oh God, there's so much commonality. So the lessons are secondary as compared to the love of the person.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 quick things. Our title was one of the last things that we came up with. I can remember when we came up with the title, the book was done, right? And we were actually on a hike somewhere, and I just kept repeating the phrase, seriously? Now what? And then we realized that was the name of our book. So, and the second thing is, when we do our outro, you'll hear the title of our book and you'll hear how incorrect we were for the number of words we used. We went a little bit over 3. So, we need to wrap up. This has been great. And I could listen to you talk about books for days because as everyone knows, and I know you know this, Mike, I'm a little bit of a book whore. I buy every book I can find. So, tell our listeners how they can find you.
So the best way is probably Instagram. If you want to get a snapshot of who I am as a human being, just go to @TheDreamStarter. It's the best way. Or you want to take a look at my website, my company. This is my main gig, which is DreamStarters Publishing. Go to DreamStartersPublishing.com. You'll get all the details. If you're looking to write a book, it'd be great. Or if you just want to follow me on Instagram, we can connect on there and talk about whatever. I'm a business guy, not just books. I just like talking about business and patriotism.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to nail the outro today, Corey. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We love having you listen. And you can find out everything about Mike in our show notes. We're going to brag him up there.
And if you want to work with us, make sure to give us a shout. We can help you start a small business and connect you with Mike if you want to write a book. And
so much for nailing the outro.
You already blew it, but connect with us on social media. We've got LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and a YouTube channel. And everything that you absolutely would ever need to know about us is on our website, sbpace.com.
You can also subscribe to our podcast, which we would appreciate if you do, and tell all your friends and family about it, and even people you don't like. Let them know about this podcast too. Like us and give us a review on our podcast. That would really help us. The more popular we are, the better we are.
And you can reach out to us about topics that you might want to hear on the show. If you want to be a guest, fill out the form that we've got on our website. Like I said, everything's out there on the site, including a link to our book, Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. We have a digital workbook download available, and if you've already purchased it and read it, like it, and give us a review. Tell us what you thought.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And this was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.